welcome to today's episode of The House. I'm Vicky Carpenter. Today we'll be discussing celebrities and feminism, and joining me to do this we have Helen Goodman, Labour Minister, Tom Brake, Lib Dem MP, and Brooks Newmark, Conservative MP. Thank you all for coming. Right, my first question is, who is your favourite celebrity and who is your least favourite? Can I start with you, Helen?
I think my favourite celebrity is David Beckham, because he really is a genuinely good footballer and a good-looking man. It seems to me that he does have good reason to be a celebrity. I don't think I have a least favourite celebrity, because probably it's one of those people whose names I don't know, who's famous for not doing anything other than being famous.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, you know.
Well, I'm not sure a celebrity, but I'm a huge Newcastle fan, and I've always loved Alan Shearer, and I think he's a great role model for young people, having spent time up in Newcastle, and so I think he's somebody I've always looked up to. I think probably my least favourite at the moment is probably Amy Winehouse.
I thought you were going to say that. I don't know why, I just had a feeling you would. I don't think we need to ask why, do we?
No.
And you, Tom, can you tell us, please?
Well, if film stars are celebrities, then I think it'd have to be Paul Newman. And in terms of least favoured celebrity, I think you could probably pick anyone in any of the Big Brother houses.
OK, so that's knocking about 100 people now or so, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, so it's about people who are there simply celebrities because they have appeared on television.
Yeah, absolutely.
But haven't actually made any other significant contribution as far as I'm aware.
OK, thank you. My next question is completely different. There are 125 women MPs in Parliament. Is there a brighter future? I mean, it's getting better. What's your view on this at the moment? Can I start with you now, actually, Tom?
I think there is a big issue in Parliament. There's a big issue both in terms of representation of women, but also representation of members of the black and ethnic minority community. I think it's something that all the political parties need to address. I think the Labour Party has addressed it perhaps more successfully than certainly my party or the Conservative Party. I don't know whether we would favour positive discrimination as a way of getting extra women in, but I think the party, the Liberal Democrats, we have to make sure that there are support mechanisms in place, additional training, perhaps additional funding, that ensures that more women get into Parliament, because at the moment I'm afraid Parliament isn't representative of the population as a whole.
Yeah, and you now, Brooks, please.
Well, I got in here from business, and I was amazed when I got in here. It felt like a boys' club. And so in business, probably about a third of the people, any meeting I'd go to would be women. And I actually find it quite dull without women here when I got in 2005. So I started something called Women to Win. And Women to Win is a Conservative initiative to try and get more women to come into politics. And of our target seats, probably a third of those target seats now that we need to win to get into power the next election will be women. So that'll bring a much better balance to at least our party in the House of Commons next time, and hopefully from my perspective a much more enjoyable experience here.
Yeah, and of course you're a very successful woman yourself.
Well, we've got nearly a third of our MPs as women now, compared with only 10% for the Tories. And I think if people want to have an influence on how many women they want in Parliament, then they need to vote Labour, because the fact is we have more women candidates than either the Tories or the Liberals. So if people want to maintain female representation, they should vote Labour.
OK, good. Right, next question. As you may know, the Home Office attack ads this week on the anti-binge drinking aimed at sort of 16 to 24-year-olds. I do have to say I didn't find them as effective as some of the TV adverts I've seen with really terrible sort of displays of body parts, and I know it's sort of drink driving, but all the very violent adverts I have seen. I didn't find these as hard-hitting. Can I ask your view on these? Can I start with you now, Brooks, please?
Yes, I mean, I think particularly for young people, the harder hitting the ads, the better. And I thought the previous advertising campaign was pretty good. But I think it also has to come up through leadership from parents at a younger age. I think this is a sort of a symptom when we see people in their late teens and early 20s doing this. I think the problem unfortunately starts, I've got 5 children, all who are teenagers at this stage. It starts at a younger age, and I think it comes from leadership, from schools, from parents, in order to address this issue. I think by the time we see ads on TV dealing with this, it's almost too late. But I do think the harder hitting ads are much more effective.
Yeah. Can I ask you now?
I think what we need is a range of measures. It's not simply about ads. I think we need to look at things like the price of alcohol. We need to look at the availability of alcohol. We need to look at the outlets, which I think we are all aware of in our constituencies, where young people can go and get drink underage. There are policing issues to address. We also need, I think, much better promotion of the health implications in schools of alcohol in the way that drugs education is given, to really introduce a whole range of measures, not simply relying on adverts, which I'm afraid to say, I think even some of the hard-hitting adverts, I suspect that some young people may just laugh them off as being over the top.
Possibly, yeah. Can I get your opinion?
Well, I think it connects a bit to the previous question you were asking about celebrity and what people see as being positive role models, because if they see people who are famous and wealthy going about drinking and doing drugs, obviously that has an influence, so that's a problem. And one of the things that's most interesting is that young people are least likely to drink too much and do drugs if they're engaged in sport. And so that's one of the reasons why we want to encourage more young people to do sport and why we've got this swimming initiative.
Yeah, okay. Right, my next question is the inflation of degree results. We've seen it in the press this week that some universities have, passed, people with higher degree results. Is the education system doing something wrong? What is your view on this? Can you give us a bit of background why this is happening?
Well, I don't know why it's happening or to what extent it's happening. Obviously, if it is happening, it's a very serious problem because most young people work extremely hard to get their grades, both at school and at college. And I think this is really down to the professionalism of the people who work in universities and college and the important responsibility they have to maintain standards.
Yeah, thank you. Can I ask you now?
Yeah, I've got my eldest son's at university, and to be honest, I think he and his friends work very hard. I think they do, and I think students on the whole work very hard. I think, on the edges, maybe there is some grade inflation and so on, but I can just speak from personal experience. I know they certainly work a lot harder than I did at university when I went there. Yes, there are more kids going to university now, but I don't think on the whole, if I look at the numbers of students at university, I think they work pretty hard. They work pretty hard to get there. Sort of agree with what Helen was saying there. And I think we should say, well done to all the kids who are out there working. And they have to get jobs afterwards, which nowadays is even tougher.
Let's hope it's just a bit of press kind of, hurrah. Can I ask you where you went to university, actually?
Actually, I went to two. I went to Harvard in the States and I went to Oxford over here.
Wonderful. Can I ask you where you went to?
I was also at university in Oxford, but not at the same time.
No, you never know.
I think I'm older than you.
I bet you're not.
I'm 50.
So
How
am
old
I.
are you?
50 2 weeks ago.
Oh, well, we didn't know
contemporaries. Oh. Can I ask you what your answer now?
Yes. Surely the purpose of education is actually about improving people, and therefore it would be logical to assume that over years, actually we would be getting better at educating people. So you would expect to see an improvement in people's results. But I suppose the issue is that because there are more people at university, it actually makes it harder for universities within the existing grading system to identify the pupils who are performing at the highest possible level. So it does make their job harder, and therefore they have to introduce alternative means of identifying their preferred students.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, can I ask quickly where you're all going off to afterwards? Where are you off to
well,
after?
I'm going to go and have some lunch, actually.
And what about you?
Yes, I've got a friend of mine actually from school who's coming to visit me, who I haven't seen in 35 years.
Oh, right, so 2 social events.
Yes.
And what are you doing afterwards?
Well, I'm afraid I'm going for lunch as well.
Oh, right,
it's
great.
strange. People spot me in the supermarket and say you're doing the shopping, and I do say, well, I have to eat. So.
Yeah. It's not all work.
It's lunchtime,
You have
so
to
I guess,
play sometimes.
It's allowed.
Right, thank you so much to our guests for joining us. Tune in next time and we'll be discussing obesity and the problems that sort of people have with this, and also corporal punishment. Perhaps we should introduce the electric chair. But if you want to submit a question or anything else, then tune in to catch21.co.uk or www.chargetv.co.uk. Thanks very much.